Hello everybody, I'm just jumping in before the video starts with a horrendous face. The spots are real. But anyway, I'm just jumping in to say that once again, my audio is messed up. If you saw my favourites of 2020 video, you know that my audio was a bit messed up, and that was because the battery was dead. Now, I've got a new battery on my microphone, so it should be working fine. That's if I plugged in my microphone correctly. Did I? No. So now it's only coming out of the left speaker, and no offence, I can't be bothered to refilm or try and sort it out because I don't think I can. So if you're listening on headphones, it will only work in the left ear, or whichever, I can't know, this is my left. And obviously if you're watching it without headphones, it will just sound a bit odd. It will only coming out the left speaker. So apologies for that. Hopefully when I next film, I'll remember and learn how to plug in a microphone properly. The problem with doing thumbnails when you're sitting down on your bed because it's too late in the afternoon and you're too lazy to do a standing up video is that you can't get as many books in your thumbnail that you want to, so you just have to go for a smaller amount. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new around here, hello, welcome, my name is Charlotte. I am filming this a little bit later in the day because it's the only time that I could film it because I've just been busy throughout the rest of the day, and I didn't want to wait a day later to film this because otherwise the video is just going to keep being pushed back in terms of when it's going to be uploaded. So I wanted to film my December wrap up as soon as I could. It's so great that I have a ring light now because I can film whenever. So obviously the background's different because I just want to sit on my bed and the lighting might be a bit different, but that's because it's a bit darker out there now, the sun is setting. But I'm here today to film my December wrap up. So I read 3 books in the month of December, kind of, and I'll get to that in a second. I hauled or bought or got 5 books as well. And TV shows, I don't really feel like I have much TV shows to talk about, so I'll talk about those when I get to them and kind of just gloss over a few. Films, I haven't even checked. And where is my phone? My phone's over there. I need my phone for it. I'm so ill prepared. And I watched 4 films in the month of December. So I'm just going to crack on. I'm going to talk about all the books I read in the month of December. So the first book that I completed in the month of December, I did start in November. So I did talk about it at the end of my November wrap up, but obviously not my full thoughts. And that is Supernova by Marissa Meyer. This is the last book in the Renegades trilogy series. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. And as it's the last book in the series, I expected to love it and I expected it to be the best book in the series. But I think Arch Enemies, the second book, is probably the best, which is so rare for me, and it's so rare for trilogies and series in general that the second book is the best one. But I do think that Arch Enemies, the second and middle book in the series, is the best one. This one was still good, the action was great, the chemistry between the characters were great, but I just felt like it didn't hit as well, and I just don't feel like I enjoyed it as much. But it was still good. I saw a good time, and it was a good wrap up to the series, and the ending kind of made me go like spin-off series. Because I read it at the beginning of the month, I feel like I can't really remember much about my thoughts, but I know that a lot of people agree with me that this one isn't the best one in the series and it didn't live up to the reputation that Arch Enemies kind of left. I still had a good time reading it, and I'm finally glad that I finished this trilogy because I've been reading it for over a year now, since like August last year, I feel. Or not last year, August 2019, because that's now 2 years ago. Oh god, time is weird. The next book that I read in the month of December actually ended up becoming my favourite book of the year, and if you want to see my favourites video of 2020, I will leave that in the link to the description below. I've already posted that, and it's kind of quite ironic that I have filmed that video and talked about it being my favourite book of the year and one of my favourite books of all time before I'd even talked about it in my December wrap up, but that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I think because obviously I recently talked about this, my favourites, I'm going to try and not talk about it too much because obviously you can go watch that video as well. This follows a group of 4th year students at this acting prestigious college, and they're in their 4th year, they've been through a lot together, they're this really close-knit group of friends, and in their final year one of them dies. And we know from the beginning of the book that Oliver, one of the group of friends, has just got out of prison for committing the crime, or apparently he was one who murdered their friend, but did he really? So we follow them throughout their 4th year and leading up to the events of the murder and after the events of the murder, so we can kind of work out who did it, what happened in that last year, and it was so good. Dark Academia, I love you now, despite only having like read 1 book that is under the Dark Academia genre. But I think what I loved about this book so much, and I'm hoping that goes forth into more Dark Academia books, is the friendship and the friendship group and how real it is. We see these friends, you know, in their 4th year, being the tight-knit group they are, but they hate each other as well. They are at war at each other all the time. They are arguing, but they love each other. And it was just so real, and the conversations they had and the scenes they had together were just so amazing and so tense and so real that it got me crying at points, because I was just reading these characters and reading this friendship group being like, I see myself in some of these characters, I see my own friendship groups in this friendship group, and the scene when they found out their best friend is dead, that got me crying. It was so tense, so angst-ridden. The final scene, the build-up, the climactic scene at the end, so good as well. This book was fantastic and I just loved it so much. The only fault that I feel like I have with this book is as it kind of got nearer to the end, before the big climatic scene, it did feel like it dipped a bit and felt like a little bit slow and was like, where is this going? Other than that, perfection. I love this so much and I just can't wait to read more dark academia. This was just chef kiss. And the final book that I read in the month of December, I actually finished today, and today is the 3rd of January. And I thought, you know, I can't really talk about it in full, seeing as I didn't read all of it in December and that I finished it in January. But am I expecting end of January me to remember my thoughts on this book when I finished it on the 3rd of January? No. And can I be bothered to wait? No. I'm just going to talk about it now. And that is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. I started reading this, or planned to fully read this, back in like July or August. I think it was July. But just because of life situations, I just wasn't able to put my full attention to it, and so I had to put it down. I finally read it and I completed it, and I gave it a 4.25 out of 5 stars. I forgot to say that I gave If We Were Villains 4.75 out of 5 stars, so basically a 5 out of 5 stars. This took a while to get into. It's a slow book. It is a slow, high adult fantasy, but I still had a good time. As I said, it took me a while to get into it and get used to the world and to the writing, but once you kind of get past the first act, I say, of the book, and you get to the like real story and the real plot of the book, it gets juicy, it gets good. This follows our main character Mia, and ever since she was 10 years old, she has wanted to avenge the 4 people that she felt caused her father's death or killed her father. It's about her going on this journey to this assassin school, to be kind of part of this assassin school, so she can make her way into being this amazing assassin, so she can finally avenge her father's death. So the first part of the book is her just travelling with this boy, another person who wants to go to the assassin school. It's their journey to the assassin school. But then it gets to the assassin school and it gets juicy and it gets good. We're following Mia, she's going into her lessons and she's having to complete tasks to become like the top of her class and stuff like that. And it's also following her relationship with the boy that she meets at the beginning of the book, and they go to the assassin school together. I did enjoy it, and I think as we near the end, we near the kind of part where is she going to kind of graduate, is kind of the nearest thing I can say to what it is. Is she going to kind of graduate? Is she going to be top of her class? That gets really juicy, and all the little sneaky things all the students and pupils do, and all the relationships that are formed. I think my one downfall with this book is, first of all, it's a slowness, and it's sometimes the times where I'm just not really engaged with it because it's so complex, and that's just a thing on my side. But the other side, and it kind of is something on my side because I feel like a lot of people will still enjoy that stuff, is the mature sex scenes. Just the way that I said that, you should just tell how I feel about that sort of stuff. I've always thought, you know, in fantasy books and stuff like that, I'm okay with those scenes, and I think I am when it's more like YA, new adult. But when it's adult, I was messaging my friends, especially like Andrew, being like, I feel like I'm gonna vom, because the descriptiveness of some of those scenes, I'm embarrassed to say that it made me uncomfortable, but it made me uncomfortable. So that's the only downfall. But the rest of it was really good, and I think if it was less adult fantasy, I would have enjoyed it more. But again, that's just on me, that's just on my brain for taking loads of effort to engage with that sort of stuff. But it was still a good book, and I'm definitely excited to dive into the rest of the series, because halfway through I was like, can I actually be bothered to read the rest of the series? But I got to the end and I was like, let's go, gonna read this series, it's gonna be great, let's do it. I had a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did, because I had high expectations for this, and even though it did like meet them properly, it met them enough for me to like this book and want to continue with the series. So now moving on to the 5 books that I've hauled this month. I'll try and be quick with them because I don't want this video to be long. The first book, which is the only one that I bought myself, I bought this in a charity shop before they closed again because of like tears and stuff. Thanks, Boris, is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This has been on my TBR for a while because everyone and the mother has been reading Madeline Miller's book, you know, Circe, The Song of Achilles, and how gay Greek it is. I think that's what I've heard. Or am I making it up? I know obviously it's Greek, but is it gay? I hope it's gay. And I know a couple of my friends on Booktube have also read this and been talking about this recently and saying that they love it. So I picked it up. I saw it in a charity shop and for like £2 and I was like, I'll take that, thank you very much, let's go. So the rest of the books I was gifted by friends on Booktube. The first 2 that I'm going to talk about were part of a Secret Santa I did with a group of my Booktube friends, and Connor got me, so he gifted me some books. He also gifted me the DVD for Love, Simon, which thank you, Connor, been wanting that for a while. The first book that he gifted me was The Shadowhunters Codex by Cassandra Clare and Joshua Lewis. This is just a textbook companion sort of book, novel thing, not really a novel, in the Shadowhunter world, and we all know I'm trash for the Shadowhunter world, and I've been meaning to read this, or been wanting to read this since like 2013, 2014, and I finally have it, and I just love how my ring light glosses on it so badly. But it's just straight up a handbook sort of thing that all Shadowhunters kind of have and read very early on in their life, and I think it'll just be fun to just chill and just learn more about the Shadowhunter world, even though I feel like I know a lot about it. And the other book that he bought me was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. Just like The Song of Achilles, I've been meaning to read this ever since the early days of Booktube, but very recently my friends Lisa, Armin and Andrew have been reading this series and raving about it, like raving to the point where they're like dying over it and it's like their favourite series ever. And I want to jump onto that. I want to read it just so I want to see what the hype is about and see why they love it. I don't know too much about this book, but I feel like it's about a girl who maybe wants to avenge either her brother or her father. They're not dead, but maybe they're into some trouble. I don't know much about this book, let's just say that. But I'm excited to read it because my friend's been hyping it up. The next book that I got gifted was from Shannon over on 155 Books. Shannon, thank you for this. This is gorgeous. I never actually thought someone would give it to me. Like, it was on my Amazon wishlist, but I never actually thought someone would give it and gift it to me. And that is The Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo, which is a bind-up of loads of fairy tales set in the Grishaverse. I love the Grishaverse. I love the Six of Crows duology. I love the first book in the Nikolai duology. We all know that me, Charlotte, is very excited for the Shadow and Bone TV show, and when we got that little teaser dropped, I was at work and I cried. I am just so grateful that she gifted this to me, because look at that, even just with the light on it, it is glimmering, it is shining, and inside you've got loads of thank you, Shannon. How many times do I have to say it? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I cannot wait to dive into it. I'm very excited for this. I'm very, very excited. And the next book that I got gifted, I don't know who gave it to me. So if it's you and you still haven't come forward, I'll need you to come forward, because I hate it when this happens, because I'm just like, please tell me, I want to thank you. I just feel like it's so bad talking about it, but like I don't know who gave it to me. But I am so grateful that they gave this to me, because I've been wanting and needing this book in my life for so long, and that is Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. I love Matt Haig so much. I might have only read Reasons to Stay Alive, but just by following him on Twitter and on Instagram and engaging with him as a person, I love him. Notes on a Nervous Planet is basically a non-fiction book kind of akin to his Reasons to Stay Alive, and it just talks about the world's relationship with itself and with social media, and how we're living our lives right now with society, how us humans deal and are not dealing with social media and work and social life and society and all that sort of stuff. And if it's going to be anything like Reasons to Stay Alive, it's going to change me, it's going to hit me, it's going to make me cry, it's going to make me like anxious thinking about my own life. But Reasons to Stay Alive really was just such an important book for me, and I just cannot wait to read this. So whoever gave this to me, thank you. So those are all the books I've hauled this month. I'm now going to move on to TV shows. I don't feel like I have too much TV shows to talk about, because this month in December I didn't really watch many full seasons of stuff. I was working a lot in December, so I didn't really have too much time. I think really the only show I want to talk about is Hannah Montana. I talked about this in my November wrap up, because I think that's when I started rewatching it, but I rewatched a lot more of Hannah Montana in December, and I just love this show. I feel a bit distant from it now because I haven't watched it in a bit, and I'll get to that in a second. I think I watched the majority of season 3 and the majority of season 4 in December, and I have to say that season 3 might be my favourite. I think it might be because they're older, and also Lily and Oliver are together in it, and I love them. The songs, there are more iconic songs I feel like in season 3. A lot more of my favourite songs in season 3. Season 4 I still love. I don't love it, but I still love it. Because obviously I'm not going to hate it because it's Hannah Montana, but I think because it's a bit of a change, because it's they're moving to a different house, we say goodbye to the old house, and then she actually tells a secret, which, not gonna lie, got very emotional while watching it. I was just lying in bed watching it, crying my eyes out. The reason why I feel a bit distant from it now is I haven't watched it for a while, because I'm on the last 2 episodes and I don't want to watch them. I don't want this show to end. I don't want this rewatch of this show to end, because I love it so much, and my rewatch of this show has made me realise how much this show means to me and how much it's impacted me as a person. So I don't want it to end. But then I know that if I finish watching it, I can move on to something like Wizards of Waverly Place, and then like Sweet Life on Deck, because that's how I'm doing it. As I said, I don't really have too many other TV shows to talk about. It means I'm not hanging around for too long and not talking for too long, so let's move on to films. The first film I want to talk about very briefly is one that I did watch at the end of November but didn't talk about in my November wrap up, and that is Red, White and Blue, which is another film in the Small Axe series. I feel like I've talked about the Small Axe series a lot on my channel. This one's got John Boyega in it, and it follows him, his character. It's a real life story, I think. It's based on a true story about this guy who, I think he's working in forensics. It might be in the 70s or something, but he's already working in forensics. And then one day he sees his father being racially profiled and then abused and beaten up by white police officers. Before, he was thinking about actually going into the police, and then he joins the police force, and it's about his experience in the police force and also how that affects his home life, because obviously a lot of his family and some friends, his black friends, are kind of going, you're a traitor. It also shows how he's been treated within the police force by other white police officers. That one was a really, really good film, and I definitely recommend it. I'm going to go a bit out of order now and just talk about the next Small Axe film that I watched, and that is Alex Weetal. This is, again, is based on a true story and is about a real life person called Alex Weetal, who is a children's author. His experience being a kid in foster care in the kind of the 70s, 80s era, and then kind of growing up not really knowing about being black because he was brought up in a predominantly white foster home. He was never brought up by black parents and brought up in a black community. So when he goes out on his own and to live his life and he meets black people and he becomes friends with black people, he kind of gets picked on, and not picked on, but kind of like jokingly made fun of. The majority of the film is about him finding himself within the black community and how he ends up going to prison. I think it does maybe centre around and focus a bit on the Brixton riots. And once again, it was a very good and powerful film, part of the Small Axe series. How many times do I have to go and say, watch a Small Axe series? The next film that I want to talk about is Only You. I saw this on Netflix, and the main reason, or the only reason why I watched this, was because of our Lord and Saviour, Josh O'Connor. I knew that this was on Netflix, so I decided to watch it, and it follows two characters. You've got Elena, Eleanor, I can't remember which one it is, I'm going to say Elena, and she is just leaving a friend's house after having a New Year's party, and she's trying to signal down a cab to get home. She thinks she signaled down this cab, and she goes to it, but then this other guy tries to get into it, and it's that thing of like, no, it's my cab, no, but no, it's not my cab, no, but it's my cab. So they decide to share the cab ride home. This guy is called Jake, played by Josh O'Connor, and they kind of go back to her, sleep together, then start this relationship. But she lies to him about her age, saying that she's younger than she actually is, when she's probably like 10 years older than him. He's meant to be about like 25 and she's like 35. It's about their relationship and how she thinks that her being older than him is gonna make him not want to be with her, and also because she's more mature in life and that she's at the point where she wants kids and stuff. And then it's about him being like, I don't mind, we can try for kids, and about their rocky journey with trying for kids and about their rocky relationship and love. One of those kind of indie-ish drama romance films. It was good. I gave it a 7.25 out of 10. The next film I want to talk about, I had so much fun watching this. I have a journey with this film, and that is After We Collided. This got dropped on Amazon Prime, so of course I watched it. If you saw a wrap up a few months ago where I watched After, which shocked me the most, thought it was great in the most trashiest way. I gave it like a 4 out of 10. So I decided to watch After We Collided, and can I say that this one was better? It is still trash, and Hardin is still a mess, and he's the worst character ever. I think he's worse in this film, but it was still fun. I think I loved this film more because it had more iconic funny moments. I'm talking about the fucking Trevor scene. The scene when he breaks into Tessa's hotel bathroom and sees Trevor there, and he's like, fucking Trevor! Fucking Trevor! Golden. And then also the scene when he's running after the ambulance. Wait, stop! 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 I think this one was a little bit more far-fetched, and there's so many times where you're just like, why? Why? How? Think about this lady. I know this whole series is all about Hardin being the one and him being the bad boy, but when Trevor arrives and this man turns out to be a solid, normal, kind, caring, considerate man, why do you not go for him? I think at the end of the day, it's a trash film. I had a great time. I gave it a 5 out of 10 stars, and I cannot wait for the other two films. And the last film that I watched in the month of December was because I watched After We Collided. I thought, okay, I have now accepted that even though After has its problems and it's problematic and it's not great in terms of showing kids what a healthy relationship is, I can recognise that, but I can now still enjoy the films. So I thought, what is a film that I feel I can now put to rest in terms of it being problematic and it not showing a healthy relationship? I can just put that aside, watch the sequel and have a good time. The Kissing Booth 2. When The Kissing Booth came out, I was naive and didn't see the flaws and was like, this is actually a really good film. Then I saw everybody online being like, but no, and I was like, oh yeah. So I don't like The Kissing Booth because Noah is abusive, angry and possessive, but we can look past that. We can watch The Kissing Booth 2 in terms of it being just a trashy film. I think it's the same as The Kissing Booth in terms of rating, in terms of enjoyment. This film took me on a ride because it's too long. It doesn't need to be 2.25 hours long. It just doesn't. You could cut out half an hour of it and it'd still be the same film. Elle is the worst character. I hated her in this film so much. Hypocrite. Don't like her. I feel like I liked Lee less in this because he was a bad boyfriend, and I felt like I cared less about his relationship in this because he was a bad boyfriend. The introduction of Marco was very cliche, and I feel like a lot of people, it was meant to be like, oh, you gotta choose whether as a viewer you like Noah or you like Marco, and Marco's gotta be like enticing. But apart from him doing that and helping her with the dance contest, I felt like he was a bit redundant and it was just over the top. But for me, the most surprising thing of this whole film, and I'm still trying to reel over it, as you knew, I hated Noah. I hated him in the first film. He was my favourite part, my favourite character of The Kissing Booth 2. How come my least favourite character, the character I hated the most in The Kissing Booth, be my favourite character in The Kissing Booth 2? Maybe it's because of the books. Maybe that's just how the books are written, because once again, it's based off Wattpad. Or maybe the writers of the screenplay, and maybe it's different from the books, I don't know, I've never read the books and I don't want to, maybe they heard what we were saying and saying how Noah was the worst and that he was not a model person for a healthy relationship, and decided to just completely change him, because this boy was caring and considerate. Yes, him and Elle didn't communicate very well, but that's just cliche, and that's also a problem on Elle's side. The rest of it was just trash and just straight people stuff. That weird scene when Marco and Elle are practicing for the dance competition, and then suddenly this weird green screen thing comes up and they're all floating through space. What straight person stuff is that? As I said, Elle was terrible, because the moment she sees Chloe, she's just like, oh, he's cheating. It's one girl. A girl just walked into a room, into your boyfriend's room, when there's other guys in the room, and she's like, she's cheating. I hate this thing in teen films that a girl has to be a threat to another girl. I was messaging my best friend, saying to her about this film and saying how Noah interacted with Chloe is how me and my best friend interact with our guy friends. Why in these films can guys and girls not be friends? And also the gay storyline they put in about these two gay guys, it was cute, I was there for it, but you know that they clearly put it in there for just, oh look at us, we've got gay people, we've got gay representation, but it did nothing for the story. You could have taken it out and it wouldn't have mattered. I'm gonna leave this here because I've been staring at my ring light, obviously around my ring light, for so long. My eyes are messing up and my ring light looks red. Not white, red, like it's looking red, and I don't know if that's actually the ring light or if it's my eyes. I hope you enjoy this video. It was once again a rant, but I'll be surprised. I try to not make these videos into rants, but they end up being rants. Let me know in the comments below what you have read and watched and hauled in the month of December or at the end of the year, or if you have watched or read any of these books or TV shows or films. I want to know. 2020 is now at an end, we're going into 2021. And I've already started to make 2021 just a little bit more productive, and I'm happy about it. Even if I don't continue on with this like routine I've got, at least now at the beginning of the year I've had a little bit of productivity, and I love that. I love that for myself. If you're new around here, do not forget to subscribe. My social media links are linked in the description below. And with that all said and done, I will see you all in my next video.